Welcome everyone to our Learning Transported webinar with Jamie Donnelly. We're really lucky to have her here with us this evening to share all of the great work that she has done. Began her career as a math teacher and then moved into instructional technology. And she launched the Global Maker Day and is involved with the AR/VR EDU community, events and presentations. She's also an author. You may know her from her ISTE book, Learning Transported. So we're really excited to have her here tonight to share ideas with all of us. And if you're watching this as a recording, make sure that you check out her Twitter account where she's really, really active, sharing ideas constantly. So thanks, Jamie, for being here tonight. And take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah. I appreciate that. I will tell you that writing, I just want to give you guys all a baseline here. Writing is not my forte. I taught math, and I never ever in my wildest dreams ever thought I would write a book. And actually, that when ISTE contacted me about it, I thought that I was supporting somebody else writing the book, and I was going to help give ideas. And it took me about half an hour into the conversation before I realized she was talking about me writing the book. And then I was like, no way, absolutely, she is insane. She doesn't know what she's asking for here. I can't write a book, there's no way. And finally we got to the point where she said, well, you know, what do you think? Do you want to write the book? And yes, came out of my mouth. I don't know what I was thinking. It was a crazy, awesome journey. I don't know what writing is ahead, but I will tell you, I've been sharing immersive technology for many years. And in those years and that passion and enthusiasm, there were educators that would come to sessions and be at the conferences and go to professional development. And then there were educators that would watch the videos. So I do a lot of, like here, right? So we have webinar type formats or live streaming. And even, face-to-face discussions. So we had those educators that met their needs, but then there were so many educators that would say, Jamie, I want it all just written down, like this is so much, I need to process it. I need to be able to go through, I need to add notes, I need to know the ins and outs, and there's just no way what's in that book I can possibly cover in any training. So it covers so many different things that help me really write out the thoughts that really cross my mind about immersive technology. And I will also say that there's no expert out there. Don't let them fool you. There really isn't. Learning this every single day, there's something new coming out. And that's what I love about it. That's what I loved about technology, moving over to instructional technology, because it never got old. You never had to do the same thing twice. It was constantly changing, and I feel the same way about AR, VR, is that this is such a great time. Now, I've been, sharing out immersive technology for years, and it really hasn't caught up until I want to say the last 2 years. Are people finally at the point where they're like, you know what, I'm ready to use this. So I'm super excited to share and talk, because this, as you've read, if you have read the book, or if you know anything about, where I'm coming from, that this is something that I just really did on the side all the time, just looking it up, just excited and passionate. And I'm thankful now that this is my full-time job, is to go out and present and share and consult with school districts and conferences. I'm very fortunate to be able to share something I'm passionate about. But in light of that, I have ran across incredible people that are also passionate about immersive technology, that are they just take the risk. They jump in and they do it. And that's what you guys are here for tonight. It may not be that everything you have packed down, but the fact that you took the steps to say, let's get our classes into CoSpaces, let's give this a shot and see what happens, I think that speaks volumes. And I will point out Rochelle here, I'll probably use her in like every other example, because she's been on this journey with me as well for quite some, few years now. And, she really has been part of the AR, VR, and EDU chat. So I started that 2 years ago, and didn't really know what to expect, but I knew for a year prior to that, I was totally ready to do it, but not ready to make the commitment, a weekly commitment like that. So I put it off for a year and then started the chat 2 years ago. And I feel like every week is just a new learning experience. It's always just something new to jump into and get a grasp on. And sometimes it's relevant to individuals, sometimes it's not. So that's what's so great. It's just a collection of resources just constantly now. Hashtag ARVR and EDU is more than just a chat now. It's really a resource for, you know, companies and educators and people to share and people to learn and people to connect. So I appreciate Rochelle being here, although she's probably going to be an expert in many of these tools. I tried to give her an out because I know how much she has going on. And I said, hey, look, you're going to know a lot of these tools, so don't feel like you have to be here. And, oh, no, I'm going to come. So I appreciate her being here tonight. I am going to go ahead and screen share and show you some slides. There will be some activities that we'll do together if you guys are up for the challenge. Just to kind of talk and play and learn from one another and see how these tools function. So at any time, I don't see the chat once I share my screen. I do see you and I'll hear you. So feel free, Sarah, however you want to do that. If you see a chat, feel free to interrupt, or if anybody else wants to hop in, feel free to ask questions. So if you are on Twitter, on social media, I'm on a couple different channels. I'm on Facebook with the ARVR and EDU group. I'm on LinkedIn and also on Twitter and a couple other places that I'm not as active as I should be. So, but the ARVR and EDU.com website has a lot of the resources that we cover and things that we talk about regularly. And I do show this because, and I'm going to talk to you about the next two slides, just kind of giving you the tools to be able to share what immersive technology, what we should expect in the future. Because oftentimes one of the first questions I get is, you know, is this just another fidget spinner? You know, is this really something more than just a trend? And I'll be honest, the first thing that really caught my attention with augmented reality back in the days was Erasmus. And I just remember being like, this changes everything. This is the, you know, I just was so immediately, I literally left the session before it was over at my local region center. And I was just in the hallways, just making stuff. I made stuff at lunch with my mom that day. And it was just like immediately the next day, all right, we're doing training with our teachers on this. Like, I just remember being so excited. But virtual reality, on the other hand, that kind of started up a little bit later, was all based upon money. I was watching the money. I was watching to see why are they spending this enormous amount of money on virtual reality? What is to come? So that really captured my attention right off the bat. So if we look at just purely this investment into the technology that our students are going to take over, right? This is where they're going to be, this is their world that they'll be taking over on these technologies. So looking at just that alone, you could see a pretty rapid increase. So looking at 2016 at 6.1 billion, 2017, obviously a jump, which is still a lot of money. Certainly in 2018, we're looking at a lot of money. And then 2020 is like, what? Oh my gosh, this is crazy. This is a huge jump. And if you know about what's coming out 2020, a lot of these technology companies have plans to release some of their items now. And this is something that they're working on in the background, and they know that this is going to be the release in 2020. And one example of that is the Apple glasses. So this was a first looked at patents, and then you started seeing the rumors floating around, and then some of those things actually confirmed. And so the idea is that 2020 is going to be the year that Apple will actually release their first augmented reality glasses, so their first wearable technology outside of their iWatch. So with that being said, you can obviously see where that jump is going to take place on the Apple side, and then some of those other companies as well that are looking at how this is going to influence our daily lives. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide, because I think this is where the change is happening. Back in the days of talking about augmented reality and sharing it and excited, and people were excited, you had a couple people that knew what you were talking about, you know, maybe even at the conference, a couple of people that knew what you were talking about. But when we're looking at 2020 as being 1 billion users, We're not talking about these segmented pockets of people anymore. We're talking about mass usage. And if you did read the book, you would know that that's something I talk about, because when it comes to this technology, while I think some of those technologies are phenomenal, I'm always going to go to the practical, because they may lead the way. They may give us ideas on some of the technologies that we have available. But I'm a huge proponent of using the tools that we already have in our classroom, using the tools that our teachers already know how to use and are familiar with. And if we're looking at mass usage, guess what? That's not going to be with something totally different that nobody has ever touched or seen, or it's only been in developers' hands. Realistically, this is going to be really used with the tools that we're already familiar with. So jumping into something, when we talk about disruptive technology, you know, disruptive technology is a great term, and great, I get it. Like, you're talking about just really switching things up, changing things up. But ultimately, you're not going to get a whole lot of people that jump on the bandwagon of disruption, right? You're going to get people that are going to find convenience. They're going to look for something that's going to help improve their lives. You're going to really get the buy-in from people that actually it matters in their lives, not because it's just changing it up or throwing out something crazy. It's going to be something that is relevant. And so when we're looking at this, both users and money, we're going to start seeing tools that actually mean something. So forget those fidget spinners, because this is technology that is actually going to transform our future on how we're going to connect. So looking at 64% of US consumers, they do believe AR is going to benefit the workplace. And I would even say VR. I've shared this story. I don't know if Rochelle has ever heard this one, that keeps going on in the back of my mind. Has Rochelle already heard this? Has Rochelle already heard this? I hate repeating myself, so I always try to change it up anyway. But with VR, I have a friend that works at the University of Alaska, and Dr. Webb is phenomenal. He teaches kids how to code with Unity. He's just an excellent educator with great vision. And was really hitting home on what the tools the students needed to have for their future for coding. He was approached in Alaska by some of the local companies that needed some training, that they were asking him to do something that other companies don't offer. Hey, can you create some simulations for us in VR that are relevant for our either our customers or relevant for our employees? That will make our lives easier, because every time we have to pay for this training, we have to go have them fly out, and then we're paying for all these expenses. And then that one day, so one of the examples he gives is he created a simulation of bear attacks. You may or may not know that Alaska, that's very real. That is something that maybe none of us can relate to. But certainly in Alaska, that's something, if you work outdoors, you actually need to be properly trained on how to use a bear spray. So he created a simulation with bear spray and said, all right, let's get these people on here and let's see how they react and how this works. So the simulation actually adapts to the situation. So he created the code to say, hey, this time you reacted this way. If you react a different way next time, it's going to actually adapt and adjust its reaction. So he said, I would put the viewer on, and he said, it never fails. Every person that ever does it dies. They all die. They all get mauled by the bear. Like, no doubt, they all die. He said, you see people that freeze and that they just can't move. They know that it's not real, but you just can't help your body to react, right? He said he's seen people actually run out of the room and the headset goes flying off their head, and he's pretty much seen people fall down and fall over. So all these reactions to see how they react. And the more times that they had a chance to actually respond to this bear attack, they started making changes in their behavior, because they had more, a better grip on what realistically that bear attack would look like. And he said, even when people got to the point where they were actually able to use the bear spray, because he said a lot of times they had a hard time with the safety, getting the bears, the safety off. He said, even when they got to the point of using the bear spray, they sprayed it either way too early or way too late. And when they sprayed it too early, you really just ticked off that bear, and there's no doubt you're going to die. If you spray it too late, then it has no reaction on that bear. It doesn't have enough time to actually do the job that it needed to do. So it was all of those things that these people started going through training. And when they would send out somebody to come out and fly out, they'd say, all right, go outside. Okay, let's go outside. I'm going to show you how to use this bear spray. So you take off safety and everybody practices, and this is what you need to be concerned about. This is how you handle this. And then they go back inside. Lo and behold, they never see a bear. Surprise, right? So to have these types of trainings, not only is it something that save us money, it could save our lives. This is something that I think is maybe something we cannot duplicate without this technology. And being able to use these types of experiences that are much more realistic than a paper or even just walking around and talking about it, this is something that our students can certainly relate to, that will be much more relevant for their workplace. So I could tell you that that's taken place a lot, and he's getting so much business. He's going out consulting now. He's actually leaving as a professor at the university because he has so many people asking him to create this technology. 90% of this technology that we're talking about, it's going to be mobile phone based. So everybody that I talk to that gets started, they all start off with, all right, I need to buy that viewer. I need to go out and buy this. What do I need to buy? You know, and oftentimes I have to ask those questions that you probably would know those answers to right now after reading the book is, one, what are you trying to accomplish here? Like, what is the goal of using this technology? If you're shooting for nothing, you're going to gain nothing, right? So let's really tie in what the purpose of using this technology is. And then two is, what do you already have available to you? And oftentimes they do have students that either have mobile devices or they have tablets in the classroom, or they may even have Chromebooks. So when we're talking about this technology that's relevant, that is going to be 90% of a billion users are going to be using this AR, VR on their mobile devices. So keep that in mind as we talk, because while I love the Vive and I love the HoloLens and Oculus Rift, and I have an Oculus Go, you know, there's technologies that are really cool. I just don't know if that's always practical for the classroom. So looking ahead, I'm going to go ahead and show a couple apps in here, talk a little bit about their stories, about why this could be something that you use. But feel free to stop me as we're going if there's questions that you might have. I'm curious if anybody has used Catchy Words AR app in the past. All right, so Catchy Words AR, and I see a chat, but I don't know if I'll actually be able to see the chat because I have that full screen mode. Catchy Words AR, I did not give a whole lot of credit to when it first came out. It was one of the first AR kit apps that were released. And when I say AR kit apps, it's really, that's a developer term, because it was a new technology made by Apple that was available to their developers to do surface tracking. So when I'm walking around, my device is picking up the surface, and it's picking up lighting, and it's identifying your space and surroundings and barriers. So through your camera lens, it's doing a lot of the work that required us to used to have a trigger image. Hey, hold this picture up. When you scan this picture, this arrives, right? So ARKit eliminated that requirement and allows it to just be in your space. So Catchy Words AR was one of the first apps released. And what they did is, it's similar to the concept of maybe Hangman. You have these letters, you go up with your device and walk up, there's a bubble floating in your sky, and you walk up with your device and you pop that bubble with your device, and then all of a sudden letters just kind of spread out and twist and turn. And then you have to go with your device, walk up to those letters, grab the letter, and then drop it into the white box that you see down at the bottom of the screen. And really what you're doing in this case is you're creating the right word with the right spelling. Now, when I first saw this app again, I was like, yeah, that's great. You know, who really cares about that floating around? Until my 9-year-old daughter, who's dyslexic, was struggling with her spelling words. And it was, you know, a little bit after the time that this particular app came out. And I thought, oh gosh, all right, let's go through it. Memorize, memorize, memorize. Stop, focus. Will you focus? Stay focused, all right? Now let's write it out 10 times. Okay, now say it out loud 10 times. Let's just try everything, right? Because we are gonna memorize this. And so we go through that, and again, maybe in a math teacher, like terrible tactics on helping my daughter memorize her spelling words. But then I thought, you know what, this app, she's so physical. She's, you know, she loves athletics, and I thought, you know, maybe this will be up her alley. So the first release of the update of this app allowed you to type in your own spelling words, whatever word you want. And so I typed in the words that she was struggling with that she wasn't able to do. And she got up there and went up there, and all right, let me do this. Looking around, walking around, looking at it from a different angle. Every letter's twisted and turned. You know, as a dyslexic student, that is going to be a struggle. And it took her forever. I'm sitting there just like my nails are already gone, but I was biting whatever was left. And so I'm just like, will you hurry? But I'm just being patient. Finally, she solved it and got it. And at the end, it celebrates with you. You have this big, these fireworks going off and streamers coming down. It celebrates that you got it right. And I asked her the spelling words, asked her to spell that word, and she was able to tell me easily. I asked her later, she was able to tell me easily. So the one time of playing that game, it stuck in her mind. Why? Because there's a couple factors that I think are happening in this app. One, you're physically getting up and moving. And I think that's really a critical part of immersive technology. There's a lot we do sitting down, but I think there's a lot we can do by getting our kids up and active. So we're activating their brain by them getting up and moving. But two, for her to see those letters twisted and turned was such a struggle. And when you make your brain struggle like that, it will not forget, because it doesn't want to ever have to work that hard again. So it's going to retain that information because it struggled so hard to finally solve that, and it's going to retain that for the long term. And so when we look at some of these tools, while I may not have thought it was significant for me, for my daughter who's dyslexic, it absolutely hit home for her. So it was a really great free app that allows you to do some spelling words. It requires, you know, some up-to-date devices that function with ARKit. And a lot of these apps, although I talk about them from the Apple perspective, AR Core was released not too long after ARKit. And so a lot of these apps make their stuff first in Apple, and then they go back and update it and put it into Google Play. So while you may see this app only in one platform right now, you'll see that transition over to Google Play, if not already. All right, so here is one app. This is my older daughter, Hannah, who's demoing this for me. If you guys haven't seen these shirts, they're pretty cool. This is Curoscope, and they have these virtuality shirts where you can see that shirt come to life. And I'm fortunate that I get a chance to meet the developer of this app and talk, you know, about what they're doing behind the scenes, what's to come, why did you make this, here's some ideas. And we've had some great discussions, but one of the things that they've just added as an update is that you can actually scan your finger, which has been around for a little while. You use your camera and your flashlight comes on, it as able to pick up on your finger your heart rate. And so when you do that in the app, it detects your heart rate and actually shows a beating heart with that heart rate after they scan their finger. So I love the fact that not only can I go into all of those different organs and body systems, both in augmented and virtual reality, I love the fact that they've thought through what is really important to use a tool like this in education, and to be able to see your heart rate, your speed of your heart rate actually inside of you, I think is pretty cool. That's a really great application of using that. And if you use the code ARVR in EDU, so INEDU, you'll get a discount on the shirt if that's something that you choose to purchase in the future. So moving over to some virtual reality stuff we're looking at. A lot of questions that come across are about 360 cameras. Do we need one? Should we get one? This is what we're looking to do. And I will tell you, it took me forever to finally purchase a 360 camera, which was this one, the Insta360 one. Excuse me. Oftentimes I'll demo this, and with a group while we're meeting face to face, I'll actually stream live in 360 through Periscope, which actually streams into Twitter. I can also do Facebook Live, and that will stream in 360 as well. And all of that being live, those were the tools that I was looking for, because I knew I wouldn't take a 360 video or picture, download it, upload it somewhere else. I knew that the pain of doing that was not something I was looking to do. So I loved the functionality of going live because it was automatically recorded for me when that platform that I wanted it to be. Plus, it was available for me to download and upload somewhere else as I want to. So while there's a lot of improvements to come with using 360 cameras, because the quality when you're going live is not great, but the 4K quality for the video and audio, or excuse me, video and pictures that they do have outside of going live, it's pretty good quality and it's really easy to use. It does connect to your iPhone if you'd like it to, or if you have an Android device, you don't necessarily have to have it plugged in. You can have it standalone and it will connect by Bluetooth. This one in particular was right around $300. And I know that the price has dropped recently because they're also they've just added another one upcoming for their next 360 camera that they're releasing through Insta360. Now, I use Google Street View forever making 360 images because I didn't need to have a 360 camera that I was going to pay for the things I was doing, because ultimately I just wanted to capture 360 images. It made sense to just have the free app, Google Street View, available to me. So I use this for a long time. I've made over 100 different 360s across the country. Wherever I go, I take a 360. There's some funny 360s in there. As a matter of fact, the first 360 I often demo what this looks like, because I'll say, hey, you guys go out and make your 360s. I always show my first one, because I think that it's something that helps you know that how far Google has come in their 360 software. But what it does is it guides you, and it lets you go through and capture different images, and at the end of the day, it stitches them together in a sphere. And I really like the fact that they have a tool like this available, because it does all the work for you. What happened before is that you'd have to upload your images into a software program on your computer, and it would stitch it all together. Now, there's tons of 360 cameras out there now that you can use, like Google Street View. But the important key to keep in mind whenever you're doing this is that it will load onto your camera roll. And that's going to be important, because when you take this 360, you're going to ask me, Jamie, what am I going to do with the 360? Well, guess what? 360 images are quite expensive. 360 videos are even more expensive. It's very hard to come by. And as you're using these, and I'll show you some of the things that you can use them in, you do not want to have to go pay for stock images of 360 images when your students could be the creators of their content. They can be the authors. So I'm going to go ahead and show you some bad images here just on my own screen. So this was my very first 360 that I made. You could see I literally butchered like a whole classroom full of kids. There's like parts of heads missing, and fortunately I didn't lose my job in this, but you know, it's one of those things where, you know, do I really need to have parents sign off when their kid looks like that? They're not going to be able to detect who that is. But I show you that because my first 360, I captured so many and I made them stand there for so long, and that was the best of them. That was the best 360 of all of them. So it has come a long way. It really stitches together well. I've seen people walk across pictures, and it actually crops people out if it doesn't match up to a full body. It does a much better job now than it did before. And I will tell you that I'm a creator of content. I've created 360 content. And because of that, I'm also able to see on Google, because I've made these public, not all of them, but I've made many of them public, that how many viewers have actually looked at my 360s. And I've had over 3 million views of the 100 images that I've uploaded. How cool is that for our students to have an authentic audience to actually check out what they've created? And so I think that this could be something, you know, just as we say it's important to know how to take photos, it's important to know how to take video, well, it's important to know how to make 360 content as well, create 360 content. And that is a part of what they're going to be seeing, especially when we're talking about virtual reality. So with that being said, where do you upload it? So there's an app out there called RoundMe, as well as web-based. And I'm going to show you what this looks like. So I'm going to go to roundme.com. I'm going to go into my account. And I am going to, it's always so slow whenever I'm live streaming, so I apologize. Hopefully I'm still signed in. If not, I'll go ahead and sign in. So as I'm going in around me, I'm able to upload my 360 images. And because I used Google Street View, it loaded that 360 on my device. And once it's on my device, then I'm able to upload it anywhere, including into RoundMe. Now, a lot of people have used like ThingLink, and I think ThingLink is definitely more focused on education. This was originally made by people that were in real estate. So you're not going to have the same emphasis as you would in ThingLink, but the difference also is the fact that this is free. You can upload 15 every month for free, which is plenty for any user without having to go pro and pay for it, whereas ThingLink costs money. And I do like some of the options that are inside of RoundMe that you don't necessarily have in ThingLink. So I'm going to my published 360s that I've uploaded here. I've used them as examples, multiple ones as examples. And I'm going to go ahead and just show you that when a school was being built, I took 360 images for the teachers that were going to have to move into their new campus mid-year. So this time, one of these years, about this time, they were actually having to go on and move their classroom during Christmas break. So that was not fun. Lots of anxiety, lots of concern. What is this going to look like? What space do I have? What storage do I have? What, you know, technology do I have? What do I bring with me? And so I went into the campus, and with Google Street View, you can see it's not perfect. Some of the lines, I'm just going to point this out to you real quick and see if you guys can catch on. Sometimes Google stitches things together and makes some funny things, like a misspelled word for a brand new campus. So when my superintendent saw elementary, he just about fell over because he thought they messed up. And I said, no, that's Google. It's really okay. So I added this 360 image in here, but then I added another one and made a portal. So when I tap that portal, either in my device or on my computer or Chromebook, then I all of a sudden appear in that new space, given the illusion that I'm walking around, right? Then here's that 360 of the campus that I was scanning. And so this teacher then could go into the classroom, and they're able to see what they were looking at. This is the kind of classroom you're going to have. These are the desks, these are the tables, these are the chairs. Here's the technology cart that you're going to have. You're going to have a smart board. You're going to have some cork boards and dry erase boards. So even file cabinets. Those are very important to those teachers that were stressing about that. And you could see these filing cabinets. So I was able to add some hotspots here just by dragging and dropping. I'm going to go into editing mode. I can literally just drag and drop that letter I as a hotspot. And then I can give some information inside of here. So I could say hello and hotspot, and I'm going to create that. I could add some images inside of there as well as links. So if I want to link them out to a game. So the viewer then is getting some information inside of this 360. In addition to that, as you can see here, I'm able to add directional sound. So I'm actually going to click this and I'm going to delete it, and I'm going to show you how easy it is. I'm going to grab this and I'm going to go to find a file that is a MP3 file, some audio, and we'll go here. And then I'm going to choose OK. So now that file is uploading into my space. And then I can actually adjust the reach. So if I really want to tighten up my reach, as I turn away, you can hear it dim out. As I come closer, so the beauty of directional sound is as the viewer is coming in, you can actually have your sound start at a certain point. You can have multiple audio files inside of the same space. So if I wanted a student to give us this tour of this brand new campus, I can. I love the fact that you have your hotspots and the content there that you can connect all this to. But I really love the directional sound. I love how that could be used in so many different ways in education. And I know for myself, that's something that is not actually available on ThingLink, which is why this was so appealing to be able to share a tool like RoundMe, especially that it's free. So I'm going to go ahead and go to this next slide. Where else can you upload 360 content? Now, I heard 2 people out of the group talk about CoSpaces. I know Rochelle would be a third as well. Now, if you have not heard of CoSpaces, this is a tool that everybody should definitely check out. It is not necessarily just a free tool. There are some really cool features that may require to be paid for, but the cost of what they charge per student seat is quite low compared to other software programs that you might bring into your campus. So CoSpaces allows you to easily build virtual reality inside of your browser or in your app. You can literally drag and drop 3D assets into your space and be able to code them and animate them and manipulate your scene and have multiple scenes. And this would all be available super easily by sharing it out, and somebody else can view it in a viewer if they'd like, or they can view it just on their tablet or on their computers. So if they're all using Chromebooks, they can click and drag around and look. So what's really cool about CoSpaces is they've opened up the augmented reality aspect of it. And I do like that what I could display on my floor, like I was showing with CoSpace or with oh boy, Catchy Words AR, how it just arrives and appears into your space. You can actually have it arrive in your space on your floor or on your table. So I do love, love, love that feature. That's something that I asked a long time for from CoSpaces. And so I have Blockly down, and it's now CoBlocks that they use. But you can go in there and you can have access to the coding tools. So even our advanced students, this is something that's super relevant for our older kids, as well as our elementary kids that have never coded anything, and all they're doing is dragging and dropping in their space. So really cool application of AR and VR, and I'll talk a little bit more about what CoSpaces does, but this is our time to play, right? So I'm hoping that you'll join my class, and we're gonna go ahead and create inside of CoSpaces together, and I'll still be sharing my screen. I'm gonna go ahead and show you how I create a class. So I'm in CoSpaces right now, and I have several different classes here that you can see, and I'm just gonna go up here to create class. I'm going to give it a name and choose create. And then there's the code. So that code is in 6.1 S2. So if you want to go to cospaces.io, if you don't already have an account, you can create your account now using my code to be able to get started with your license. It gives you 100 student seats to get started for 30 days, which is plenty of time to get started with CoSpaces for a project. So I'm going to go and bring that up one more time and make sure you're aware. Oh, I'm going to have to present here. All right, so my pro trial code, if you are getting started right now with CoSpaces, is COS for CoSpaces, and then JAIME for Jamie, and DO for Donnelly. So COS JAIME DO. That will get you started with getting that 30-day trial in. And once your trial runs out, it's okay. You still have the basic features in CoSpaces. It still is something that you can use. It just won't be something that you use necessarily in controlling your students in groups like I was showing you a minute ago. But you could still go in there and still have some great creation opportunities. Now again, here's the code. If you're already in CoSpaces, you can actually join a class. So if you populate your main screen, you should see the option to join. Does anybody have any questions so far? All right. So N61S2. Now again, many of you mentioned CoSpaces, so I'm hoping that it's not a long process. If you're just now signing up though, it does ask you to validate your email before it lets you process through. But I can certainly, actually, Sarah, do you mind putting in that code into the chat? So if anybody, if it takes you a second to get, awesome, thank you. Right, so here we are. I can now go to my students and I can see who's all joined in. And we have 3 people so far. And as they're joining in, they could choose join class. So if they're coming into CoSpaces, let's see, I'm gonna go to just CoSpaces. When you first pop in, this is what you should see. And I would just choose my login. It's going to bring me to my dashboard. And then inside of my dashboard, once this loads, whew, it's going super slow. Sorry, guys. There we go. You could choose join class under my classes. So when I choose join, I just put in that code and all of a sudden I'd be a student in that class. So again, here are my students. So as an educator, I can see who's all joined in. Hi, Z. All right, and I can go back to my assignments and now I'm going to create an assignment. Now I have some options. There's a couple spaces that you have an option for, and I will show you in a little bit the merge cube. But if I just start off with AR/VR space, that means that the student then can go in and that's immediately, they don't have the option to choose what they're going to work on. But then I can also go in and do a 3D environment, or I could say, hey guys, if you already have a 360 image, I'm going to choose that so that you can upload that. But I'm just going to keep it simple, 3D environment. And the title here is fun and let's play. So I'm going to let you guys describe yourself so you can kind of jump into the group as a whole group on slide 1, and then I'm going to let you describe yourself in another slide. So groups of students here is what I'm going to choose. I'm not assigning you all your own individual space. I'm actually going to have us all in here. And the people that I'm pulling in here is probably myself. But I'm going to go ahead and get us up here. I'm getting everybody in group 1. All right. And when I send this, I can always come back to this class while you're working on it and see if there's new students that have added to the class and still pull them in. So I'm going to go ahead and choose send. Now on your page, you're going to notice that you have an assignment now. So you would go into that assignment. I could already see people in there, some action happening. And on that first slide, just go ahead and just have fun on that first page, and then choose another scene on your left for yourself. So I'll go ahead and go in here with you guys. If you look over here on your left-hand side, you're going to see this is our first slide, our first scene, and then you can add a new scene for yourself. If you'd like, you can even name the scene. So I'll say right here, whole group. That way, if you want to be on slide 2, you can name it Jamie. So whatever you want to title your scene, you're welcome to, and express yourself however you'd like. And then the whole group scene right here, you can already see we have a character that's been added. I wonder who's here. There's cats. All right, so I think we should actually make 1 million cats in here. That would be great. So as you're going through and you guys are going to create, we can all create in the space at the same time. And being able to work in group work is, I think, an important part of CoSpaces, because while we're going to ask our students to do some independent work, oftentimes we want them to do some collaborative work as well. And being able to work in a 360 environment collaboratively, that's like taking Google Docs and supercharging it, right? So talk about collaborative co-creation using immersive technology. That was a fantastic update that they added in here. All right, so I could see some fun stuff happening here, people adding. I can go over here to scene 2 and see if anybody will add in there, and then any other scenes that populate if people were to add their scene. Now, while you're working on that space, I'm actually going to go back to my group to see if anybody has added back in, and I'm going to show you that I can still add them in if that is the case. It's working pretty slow right now. All right, so let me go home. Oh, you guys are doing a great job running over the witch. Okay, so I can come over here to edit group still, and you can see 3 more people have been added. So I'm just going to drag them into the space, same space, and then I'm going to save the changes. And now they also have access to this assignment. So what's nice about this is maybe day 1, you have some students who are absent or on a trip. When they come back to the group work, you can absolutely go back in there and add them. Many times you're not going to be adding them live like I just did. You're going to have your classroom already set up, ready to go. You'll have multiple different assignments that will be happening and taking place. But should you want to have people join in, just know that you can always edit those groups and manipulate and move them to different spaces. I'm going to go back in here with you, see what you all have created. Whoa, is it empty or am I just, oh, I was in the whole, okay. I was in scene 2. So if you're curious what to do inside of CoSpaces, because I just kind of threw you guys in here making the assumption that many of you have been in here. But if you are curious what you could do, you can come down to your library down at the bottom, and you have a lot of characters that you can add. You can add some animals. You can add different structures and transportation like many of you are already doing. And when you add a character in here, or for instance, a dog that might chase that cat, I could select that word library again, it will drop it down and out of view. And now I can raise it up in the sky. I can make it larger or smaller. I could rotate it around. And then I can even move it around and place it to another space. But one thing that I can do is right click my character. Now, if you're on a tablet doing this or on a mobile device, you would just hold it until this populates. Or I think it's either hold until it populates or double tap. I know that it's been through a couple different transitions. And you could go to animation. In that animation, I can let my character move just by right clicking. Now you'll notice he stopped moving, but that's okay, because when I go to play mode, I'll be able to see exactly what's taking place in my scene. I think this is so cool. Somebody's actually building a structure with the Grinch. That's awesome. Oh, that's great. And then somebody's upside down and a tree's floating. All right, this is turning out to be a great space with a Christmas tree and a colorful unicorn. All right, so as you're going through, you also have the option of coding. So up at the top, we talked a little bit about code blocks or JavaScript. And you can select items in your space, and you can give them some action and lots of different options for each of your characters. You can have them move, and you can have them disappear. You can have them really just change colors. I mean, there's a lot that you could do to your characters to have them do various things in your space. So you would select your character, for instance, this unicorn. And I want to make sure that I right click my character and I give it a name. Unicorn sounds good. But I also have to say use in code blocks, because if I don't use in code blocks, then I won't be able to see it populating over here. So I actually have to just approve that it's okay to use it. So here, when play clicked, the item, the unicorn, will change color, will say something, will think bubble. So you have all these different things that you can make it do. You can have it move. You can have sound coming through. So I'm going to go ahead and just change its color. Let's see. I'm going to set that color to, let's say red. All right. So now I've created a little bit of code. I know nothing about code, by the way. So anything I do in here is literally just trial and error. And then I would close out there. And then when I choose play to go look at my scene, I should still see all the animation that you've already set up on all of your characters. Oh, we got music really loud. Oh, there we go. Whew. Thank you for adding the song. That was great. I actually expected the Grinch to come on. So you can have some really cool stuff going on, and this gives you really a three-dimensional platform for your students to create anything they can imagine. And we've seen historical scenes being replicated. We've seen book reports being done in CoSpaces. We've seen people be able to put together prototypes for what they're going to display. We've seen definitely language development, language acquisition, even foreign language. So there's so much that can be done. I hear somebody unmuting themselves. Does anybody want to add any input in here? No problem. If you want to, feel free to go. Was that you, Sarah? Okay.
No.
Okay.
Checking in.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Well, feel free anytime you guys want to stop me and want to share, feel free to go in there. I love the scene that you guys have created. And you can also go in here as you're creating and you can choose play and see what that scene looks like with that really awesome different music. And then over here, I could come to share And this is what's so cool. Right now, the space is set to private just by default. If I share now, I can share this unlisted link, so it'd be hard for somebody else to find. And I can even say, hey, you know, I'm going to allow other people to take this scene and totally start from where I'm at and transform that. So that's really cool. And then I could give it a name and describe it, and then I can share this as unlisted. So that link then will be, let's wait for that to populate. That link then is right here available for me to share with my teacher, or it used to be that we would have to share that way. And now CoSpaces turned it into a collaborative space and managed, but with the teacher dashboard. So they have some really cool ways of sharing now that you could see your spaces with your students and set up those assignments. But if you do not have that pro account, you're not paying for that, you can have your students go in and share the link and maybe share it in Google Classroom with you so that you can go in and see their spaces. And I'm just going to go ahead and close that. So that is CoSpaces. Now I have a feeling you guys are still in there just having a blast. I rarely start CoSpaces like this in the middle because there's just no way. You just, you know, people don't want to stop. They don't want to go back and hear more. But I will continue on just for time's sake, because I know we are going to be closing down shop at 7:30 my time, 8:30 yours. So looking at this next slide, I'm going to show you another AR/VR tool called ERH, for Experience Real History. It used to be called Alamo Reality, and what they have done is they've created several different ways of experiencing the Alamo. This is the one that I'm going to show you here is playing cards, where you can go in and actually play this character. You're not going to hear it right now, unfortunately, because it's playing through YouTube and it's connected to my headphones. Well, let's see, let me try that again. Okay, let's try that again. I go to play. All right, really doesn't like me right now. I have a window populated in front of this. It's every time I move, it appears. Okay, let's see if it lets me unmute. There we go. All right, so what I do like about this, the playing cards, is one, you can look at these characters in history independently, but they also have it to where you could put your cards together and you could see how they interact in history together. So that's a great way of having those interactions. Not only do they have that, they have a playing map that comes to life in different segments of where the Alamo took place. And then last but not least, they have something really cool that I'm going to show you what a portal is, what an AR portal is. But they have AR portals that you can walk into the Alamo, and it brings you up to a bird's eye view, and then you're able to see the Alamo actually taking place all around you as if you're looking down from the sky. It's a really, really great way of getting our kids involved with history. One thing I will say is that they have changed their name from Alamo Reality to Experience Real History, because they're not just sticking with the Alamo anymore. They actually just finished the Gettysburg Project, and that will be the next one that will be released for everyone to experience, and it is phenomenal. They're doing a great job. Now I have AR Moon down here just to show you what this looks like, to get an idea of actually going on the moon. So in this particular app, not necessarily academic app, they have it more as more gaming or entertainment. But here you could see inside of my screen on my device that I see a rocket come through. And inside of that rocket, I light it. You'll see the little rocket icon in the top right corner. And I tap that, and it will light off that rocket, and it will shoot up into the sky. And then we are going to go to the moon. So once we arrive on the moon, you'll see that we get to walk through this portal and go onto the moon. So I walk into that space with my device, and while I'm still in my parents' backyard, it gives me the illusion that I am walking around on the moon. So there's an astronaut there that kind of backs up because he doesn't like me approaching him like that, I guess. And then there's a rover, and as you walk over to the rover, you get close enough, and then it actually has you sit on the rover. And now I'm driving around my rover. I'm able to use the joystick to manipulate the arm on it, and you have tasks to accomplish on the moon, things that you're collecting around, and it will populate into your library of things that you're collecting. And so what you might be wondering right now is, what is going on? How is she doing this? And here in a second, you're going to see, as I'm walking around, I'll try to fast forward through this. But here in a second, as I walk around, you're going to see that window still there. I'm still in the backyard, but through the device, this is what I see. And I am able to walk up closer and walk out of the moon and back into the backyard, and there it still is. So those are called AR portals, and what it's doing is it's really doing a mix of augmented and virtual reality. Because using augmented reality, you have this portal space that once you walk through, based upon your location, this again is using that AR kit, AR core, because it's doing surface tracking. And once you walk through a certain spot, then it will trigger a 360 experience for you to walk through. And that is one example with AR Moon where I was able to walk around in the space. And I think that's pretty great. This is AR Portal, now called Portals Learning with AR, something to that extent. So as you can see here, if you've ever seen Doctor Strange, this is an example of walking through that portal. I'm at Niagara Falls, and you could see that as I walk around, which I don't do a whole lot in that space, but as I can walk around, gives you an experience like you are walking around in Niagara Falls yourself. And what's great about that particular app, let me go back, is that they are working on the next release where you can upload your own 360 images and videos. There is an app out there called Figment AR, but Figment AR already does that. It lets you upload your own 360 content, and you can have multiple windows that you walk through. The difference is with Figment is that they're not really going anywhere in the future. So Teleport Me, who made these portals here that you see, they're advancing and they're moving forward. Figment AR was made purely to show what can be done on their platform. It wasn't made to be a standalone app. And I'm so bummed. I wish they would have continued with it and done more, but at this time, that's not their emphasis. And this is a way of creating. We talked a lot about this experience of walking around and engagement, but when our students are creating content, I think that's when it becomes much more relevant. In this case, they're creating 3D content, and they can build various things. They have different objects that they can pull into space. In that case, you have 4 different objects stacked together to create that tree. And you can actually build in your space using Orb. And as I build, I could be at home building my Coliseum for my classroom. And then when I show up in my classroom, I can actually show what my space looks like in my classroom. So it doesn't have to arrive where you built it. You can literally save it and then upload it into a new space. So I really like that Orb has that creation aspect as well. This is 3D Bear. So 3D Bear is using some animation, some 3D objects that you could pull into your space. It also has Thingiverse integrated, where I can upload any 3D object you could possibly dream up. And you could change the texture of your objects to whatever you want it to be. You could change the color of your objects. Some are animated inside the library, and then you have your Thingiverse, which is strictly just the file, the STL file, which is like your 3D printing file, and that would be uploaded into your space as well. But what I really like about this example is Mary Alice Curran, who is phenomenal, very big into digital citizenship. That's her specialty, has really seen immersive technology and Digit really come together. So she created this in 3D Bear. All right, so what I want you to notice is not only did she use 3D Bear, she also added a filter to it and added the text, closed captions to go with it from Apple Clips. So she was doing a little bit of app smashing there. And using Apple Clips, her another passion within digital citizenship is access. So her husband is deaf, and this totally spoke volumes for him because he can't see her mouth moving, which he's able to read lips. He can't see her mouth moving in videos. But this absolutely opened up the door for him to be able to visualize what she's trying to say in that space. And I think so many of our kids get eliminated from immersive technology because we're not really thinking about the access of it. So I love that she's captured both in this immersive technology, relevant for really any holiday, but she's also went in and took Jerry Pallotta's books, who's out of Boston, who has Who Would Win, those books that are like super popular in the library if you're in the library at all, especially for our elementary students. Jerry Pallotta's a good friend of Mary Alice, and he has lots of books. One of his books says Who Would Win, and it had 2 different dinosaurs, and she was able to put the 2 different dinosaurs in 3D on top of the book and where they're at and placed. And so think about, from a student perspective, understanding what dinosaurs look like, maybe their size and proportionality, and being able to actually have that in your space, I think makes it much more relevant for them to use those tools. So those are some of the ways that she's used it. 3D Bear actually has a way for you to do a trial right now and get you in there for a teacher dashboard, kind of similar to the concept of co-spaces, where you could see what your students have created. You could add them in your classroom, and then you're able then to see what they have built by their snapshots, and then eventually it will be snapshots of video. And what I will tell you is that where they're going in the future is collaboration. So when we just saw co-spaces, people say, well, what's the difference between this and co-spaces? Well, co-spaces is in a platform, and then I could display that platform in AR. But then if I want to adjust it, I'm going to go back into that platform, adjust it, and then display it back on the floor. So I could go back and forth and modify. But what 3D Bear does is it doesn't require the platform. The platform is live. You're actually manipulating live in your space and creating. So I think that they're doing some really good things, something to watch for, and definitely some new features to come. Metaverse is probably more of Rochelle's specialty. She's used it with her students, and I want to say I've only used it for the chats, and I've only used it to display at conferences, but I will say this is a fantastic tool for creating some immersive experiences, so from a student perspective, but there is more of a learning curve. And while I probably spend a lot more of my time sharing tools that anybody could pick up that day and start using that day, I want to say Metaverse is one of those tools that will give you, you'll need some time to do a little bit of research in order to know how to use it at this moment. All right, I heard somebody talk about merge cubes, and I think that there are so many tools out there, so many resources out there, and then which apps work with the merge cubes, why do I need it in a merge cube, and when we talk even about, for instance, the Walking in Mars or Catchy AR or even 3D Bear, that requires technology that is on newer devices, whereas the merge cube can be available on pretty much any device, any mobile device that is smart capable, and it will be the bridge between older devices and newer technology, because it's actually all the sides are QR codes. So every which way I turn my cube, my app is picking up movements, not because it recognized my surface, not because it's picking up and detecting my boundaries or the lighting. It's literally just using those QR codes, which are our trigger images, to actually manipulate my objects. So I really like that Merge has created that to help bridge some of this technology. And a lot of their passion is really being the hub of AR and VR. So instead of them being the developers of everything, they've opened up the door to collaborate with developers. So all these other apps out there created by these amazing developers are made available through their Merge Cube. So I really like that there's collaboration happening there, because I can't tell you, I'm going to a million different spaces, a million different ways. So as we're thinking about using some of these tools, that having one place to go find it, I think would be a huge win for educators. So you could build AR worlds like using in Minecraft with the app Dig. Object Viewer allows you to upload your own 360 content. And you can also do Dino Digger, where you're excavating bones, dinosaur bones, and putting it into your museum. And then I really like this one, HoloGlobe. It takes your cube and turns it into the earth, and it shows live weather patterns. It's pulling it from NASA, and NASA is showing cloud formation. It's showing wind patterns. It's showing precipitation. It's showing even fires. So as we're watching fires happening across the country, being able to see where those fires are actually taking place, and it's all live inside of your cube. It's pretty phenomenal. So to be able to capture that and view that through HoloGlobe is phenomenal. Object Viewer allows, like I mentioned, allows you to upload whatever content you create, and then you upload your 3D content. All of that's free. So however you create it and wherever you create it, this is definitely a skill our students need to be aware of. They need to know how to create 3D content. And this is something that I think will be very relevant for their future, but also what kind of experience would CoSpaces be if there were no 3D objects? What kind of virtual reality experiences would we have if there was nothing 360? So if we're thinking about some of these technologies, these are some of the basics of what we need in order to experience these things. So having our students be content creators is vital. This is an app. Yeah.
There was a question in the chat a little bit ago about the Merge Cubes and CoSpaces. The question was, so would you create 6 different sides on CoSpaces, and then you would play on each face of the Merge Cube?
Yes. So I actually don't know how to create on the bottom unless I'm able to bring it down. I didn't even try. But where the cube is actually on the bottom plane inside of CoSpaces, I didn't build anything underneath, but I actually built around it. You can also build inside of it, and it actually can be expanded beyond the Merge Cube. So you can have things floating up in the sky, you can have things connected to the cube. Wherever you place them is just like you placed a floating tree. You'd be able to do the same thing inside of CoSpaces, inside of the cube as well. What you'll see is when you go into the space, it looks the same, except there's a cube sitting there. So that's what you build, either on, around, inside, outside. So, excuse me, those are all the options you have inside of CoSpaces. I'll show you a little bit of that demo next. But here is an app called 57 Degree North, made by Mighty Coconut. And this one's great for storytelling. This is great for our language arts teachers. Yeah, I'm not sure why it won't let me play that here. Let's just try to come over here and just choose play and see if it lets me play it. Okay, well, it's not wanting me to play, it's playing my slides instead of playing. Here we go. Okay, so I know we're getting close to time, so I'm just gonna try to make this snappy. There we go, we have chapter 1. different stories. So you could see here, you're given options to turn the boat or stop the boat. I really like that you have the option of, you know, creating your own story. I do like that it also saves your story wherever you were at last. And so every day that could be your little warm up with your students, and they can make predictions about what's to come next, why they would have changed that decision, who would have voted for that and why. So there could be so many different things that you use that for, but I really like that it could be different every single day. This is another app that is just been released by Shapes 3D. And this is just one of their net apps. So it lets you look at 3D objects and view their net. And then I can also view it inside of a merge cube. See if I can get there. All right, so you can see my merge cube, and I can actually open and shut that in the net as well. Now, what they've also done is some drawing inside of their app. There's a 3D drawing with geometry shapes where I can actually connect my vertices, my sides and edges, and I can reform different objects inside of my merge cube as well. This is what I did with CoSpaces as an example before it was released, because I was trying to create something for MassQ. Oh, I keep doing that, I'm sorry. So this right here is, let's see if it gives me the option to be able to play, is just an example of using some holiday themes. And so inside of those holiday themes, you have 4th of July, Christmas, Halloween. We have an Easter bunny there, and then New Year. You can see at the bottom, though, I didn't create anything. I didn't even try to create anything, so I'd love to hear if anybody actually has created that. But I added some animation on there. I had some spots that were bare, and you could see the merge cube, some spots that were more covered. You could absolutely add objects. You could add a cube on top of it, colored, and you wouldn't even be able to see the merge cube anymore. So it's completely up to you what you want to accomplish in that. And I did have a Nearpod activity for us to go to, but we are totally out of time. So I'm going to squash that, but I will tell you, if you are not using Nearpod, if you're looking for an easy way of getting into some 360 content for virtual reality, that this is a great way to hop right in without any experience. So I always recommend Nearpod to get started. Definitely we need to be the ones to create that future. We need to give our students the opportunity to create what this is going to look like, and not limit them by what we think it could look like, because they're going to come up with some pretty amazing things. So those creation tools are going to be vital. And many of you have already seen the Learning Transported book, but this is what it looks like. If that's something that you're interested in getting, feel free to go check that out. And here's some of the apps that I shared tonight with both iOS and Google Play available in there. I did not cover Anatomy 4D, but that's a great science one. I try to add in some history. So there are some definite apps in there that you can go back and check out. Sarah would be happy to share those 2 slides with those QR codes so that you can reshare that out with the community. And then arvrand.edu.com. You could subscribe. There's tons of things that I send out from there, from webinars to presentations to conferences to new apps coming out to events. I mean, it's numerous the things that I'll share through the website. And this will give you a chance to stay current and to get information as it comes out. And that's all I got.
Thanks so much, Jamie. That was awesome.
Absolutely. Does anybody have any questions about some of the things we covered? I will say, if you're looking for more Merge Cube apps, I have an article out there with EdSurge where I list my top 10 Merge Cube apps that I use, and if that's something that you want to check out, you could just look up my name, Jamie Donnelly, or Merge Cubes under EdSurge, and you should be able to access that article with the top 10 favorite that I had listed. There's still so many coming. There's some that I didn't display that are kind of in that beta phase right now that haven't been released. They're phenomenal, and I can't wait to see what more comes. But more importantly, I can't wait to see what our students develop inside of this. They could be those developers now, so I'm really excited to see them create.
Excellent. Well, I think at this point we will wrap things up by closing our recording. So thank you, Jamie, for being with us tonight. We appreciate it, and we'll make sure that the recording goes up on our website for our members.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me, guys, and for reading the book.